For some, tears of joy and relief. For others, disappointment, despair even. A landmark decision, a moment of seismic change. You every morning. Emma Bray has motor neuron disease and was given a year to live. She says today's vote will give others the choice she will be denied. Framed around the language of parliamentary process, policy and legislation, but at heart, the most profound personal questions about life and how it might end. In the Commons today, the gravity of the decision they faced, obvious on all sides. The woman who sponsored the private member's bill urged the House to seize the moment.
And it fills me with despair to think MPs could be here in another 10 years' time hearing the same stories.
Maureen Burke, voting for her late brother David.
What David needed was a humane, safe and trusted process available to him at home. That would give him agency over his last weeks and months. That is what this bill offers.
A free vote saw political opponents join forces to argue against it. Many said they supported the principle, but that this was just a bad bill.
What could be more unjust than to lose your life because of poorly drafted legislation?
I'm struck by the number of professional bodies which are neutral on the topic of assisted dying in general, but are opposed to the provisions within this bill in particular.
The Prime Minister, who'd always made clear his support, arrived to vote on an issue which has divided his cabinet.
The ayes to the right, 314. The noes to the left, 291.
But a narrow majority now paves the way to one of the biggest social changes in a generation.
I think the overwhelming emotion is one of relief. This has been a long journey to get to this point. It's been an emotional journey. What it's also shown is there's a clear need to change the law, and I'm so pleased and proud that Parliament has taken that on today.
There was an amendment which talked about anyone who might themselves feel a burden being exempted from assisted dying, and that was overturned. That doesn't inspire confidence in terms of safeguards, does it?
Well, there are multiple layers built up into the bill, to the extent where I've had a number of terminal people contact me saying, look, Kim, you've made this virtually impossible for anybody to access assisted dying, and I take that quite seriously as well. I think there's been a narrative created that people are going to turn up and say, can I have an assisted death, please? It doesn't look like that in practice. It's a really thorough process.
As the bill had travelled through the House, a number of changes were made, though MPs disagreed about whether they strengthened or weakened it. Opponents wanted tighter restrictions to protect vulnerable people, including those with anorexia, disabilities or others who might be vulnerable to coercion. Campaigners against the bill said today's move leaves many people afraid.
Yes, the bill has passed, but there is no disabled persons organisation that supports it either, and we know that in society today, people with disabilities feel like a burden daily. People are scared to live a disabled person's life.
And I know you've campaigned vociferously against this bill. On a personal note today, what are your thoughts?
I know that the people that love me value my life.
We do, George.
Many of those who fought for this moment were careful not to talk in terms of victory. But this is an enormous step towards an historic change in the law. The bill must now go through the House of Lords. Many are hoping it will bring additional safeguards, few expecting its progress to be halted. Well, straight after the vote, I spoke to Baroness Jane Campbell and the Labour MP.
Today's vote showed that more and more MPs began to realise how difficult this law will be to implement in practice. That whilst we would all want a good death for everybody, actually an assisted death hasn't proved to be safe in any country across the world.
And you have spoken and written about a law like this being a risk and a danger to people with disabilities. So I wonder, on a personal note perhaps, or for other people with disabilities, what do you think people are feeling today? What are you feeling?
I would say, please don't be afraid. The law will now go to the House of Lords. The legislation will go to us. And we will do our very best to make it the safest law that we can make it. At the moment, it is not safe. It does not pass the public safety test. We will try our very best, but we're not miracle workers.
Jake Richards, again, a momentous day and one that you have campaigned for. Baroness Campbell says this is a difficult, dark moment for many people with disabilities. They simply don't feel safe now.
Well, look, the first thing to say, yes, it's a momentous day, and yes, there are lots of people in the country and in Parliament who have been campaigning for a change, and they will be happy today, but we're not celebrating. We appreciate there are people like Baroness Campbell and others across the country really worried about this, and there is a piece of work to be done for those of us who support this change to offer reassurances about the safeguards in the bill as it goes to the House of Lords and proceeds towards royal assent.
People needed those reassurances before the bill
and look, the debate
gets to this stage.
Well, the debate has been very heated. I think there is a lot in the bill that has changed during from second reading to today, which has offered reassurances to the disabled community. But look, I appreciate that some of your viewers will be worried about today's vote, and it's for us as parliamentarians, all of us, to work to try and improve this bill now in the House of Lords and make sure that people understand what it does and what it doesn't do.
So Baroness Campbell, you can take this will go to the Lords, you can make it safer.
I think there's a lot of work to do before we can unleash this bill on society. In its current form, it absolutely cannot be.
Why have you been unable to convince people like Baroness Campbell, many doctors, that this is a safe bill to go forward?
Well, look, you're never going to have complete consensus, but I think what has happened is in this debate we've seen that the public do want change. The polling has been very consistent about that for some time, and this bill is a really important, and this moment today is a really important step towards that change.
And to that point, I mean, people who fought for this bill say that to give people who want that choice does not mean taking away from people who don't want it.
Yes, but in order to have choices, you have to choose between one thing or another. Think of a person who is a disabled person towards the end of their life, their social care has been cut. They've been told that there isn't a palliative care service available or accessible in their area. What choice does that person have? They will be desperate, and they will feel that they have no options than just to clock out, because actually choice does not exist for the people that we want to protect and to help to die a good death.
I mean, very briefly, Jake Richards, one of the amendments that was voted down today was that anyone who is substantially motivated by feeling they are a burden should be exempted. If you vote down that amendment, how can you give people confidence that this is protecting really vulnerable people?
Well, this is where I think people can be really assured. In Bill Committee, we heard evidence on exactly this from lawyers, from people in the medical profession, Chris Whitty, and to try and define what substantially motivates us is impossible. It would make the law not fit for purpose. No, you don't disregard it, but it's absolutely right that the law has to be workable, and having that amendment would have made it completely unworkable.
I mean, very briefly, if you would, Baroness Campbell, what will be the priority for you as this goes through the Lords?
It will be to protect those people who feel a burden on their families, for those people who desperately need and want palliative care. I want to ensure that they have that first before we legislate to end their lives.
Baroness Campbell, Jake Richards, thank you very much for talking to us today. Thank you.